Hi, my name is Mohit Sharma. I am the managing partner at AstralMind Consulting. Very recently, there was a paper released by Apple, and gosh, I must say the world of AI doesn't settle for anything less than disruption. So, the paper basically examined the different large reasoning models and examined them in a kind of a controlled environment. The key objective of the paper that Apple released was primarily to investigate and understand the true reasoning capabilities, the strengths, and limitations of large reasoning models. The paper was called The Illusion of Thinking. It has come as a kind of a shocker and a surprise to many companies which are at the forefront of AI innovation. And there were a lot of performative speeches that were being given by the executives across these companies to say AGI is nearer than you think. Next wave is agentic. Make sure you are not losing out, and blah blah blah. And ultimately, what has happened is that there are certain gaps which are worth the attention and worth consideration for everybody, which have been exposed by Apple's research paper. So this study was, what they did was they picked up some of the market leading large reasoning models and compared it across and put some, I would say, common tests, common intelligence reasoning tests like Tower of Hanoi, river crossing, checkers, jumping, blocks world, etc. They took it up, increased the complexity in a controlled environment, and checked whether these models are able to perform and whether how do they perform in comparison to other models, as well as to comparing them with the non-thinking counterparts of the same product. And what happens if we change the complexity from a low complexity to medium complexity to higher complexity? How do they change in that kind of an environment, and what kind of performances they give? They were judged for parameters like accuracy, inference tokens, token length, in a very controlled environment, where you can basically put a dialer onto the complexity and verify the results as well. So the startling part of the study was that up to a certain point, so up to a certain point of complexity, once the complexity was increased, the models performed well. So for low complexity tasks, considering the token utilization as well as the efficiency, the standard models fared well. For medium complexity tasks, till a certain point, the reasoning models did very well, but there was some latency as well, considering that there was some overthinking involved, that it was making sequential logical chain of thoughts even for things which, even if it has discovered the right answer, it will still check the wrong direction or the wrong path onto the maze before concluding anything. So this kind of things the researchers noted happening, and then they took all these models from OpenAI, Cloud, Google, and DeepSeek, tried to compare and plot their results and see what happens. It came out that to a certain complexity level, the thinking models, the reasoning models had an advantage, but for high complexity, thinking, non-thinking, all models failed. And considering the way they utilize their tokens as well, it was clear that there is not even an attempt in order to solve the problem. It's like when we get into a kind of a idea or brainstorming session or an idea syncing session, we are always pushing people to think harder, think more, expand your thinking, and all of that stuff. These models seem to know their limitations to thinking, and once they realized that this is beyond their limitation, they simply gave up, they collapsed. And this was the most startling and interesting part of the study. So as the problems get more and more complex, the likelihood of the model trying to even solve it is very less. So thinking seemed to me a kind of a relative but fragile advantage. It can delay failure, but it cannot prevent failure from happening. And to add it all, for some activities, I think the standard models did really well. Now, this raises some serious questions as an executive, as a business leader, when you are evaluating these solutions, when you are building your AI strategies, when you are trying to deploy AI across your organization, what you're supposed to do. And one thing to call out is Apple did a kind of a thorough study, in the sense that given the constraints that they had, they even tried to give kind of explicit algorithm or explicit sequence of steps to the model, expecting if it will succeed, but it didn't. It failed at the right pressure point. And that is something very, very crucial for the business leaders to today see and decide. First and foremost, make your own experience as the basis of your decisions. Do not outsource your rationality. The performative marketing died just one more time. It wasn't working earlier, it isn't working now. So if you are taking certain decisions based on the POVs or marketing material or accuracy benchmarks, bear in mind there was an interesting part in this study where they tried, I think it was Cloud 3.7 Sonnet. They tried to test it on a problem for which there was a lot of data already available, solution data already available across the internet. They wanted to see if there is data contamination which is acting as a lurking variable into the study, and it was. So it was failing in general in a controlled environment, but once allowed to interact with the external data or the previous training that it has, there was some sort of muscle memory that was there. So interestingly, the performative marketing can even prove to you that there is some accuracy level, it is crazy, there are tests that we have done, there is some performance benchmarks, the tokenization and all that. It is time to take a step back, look at it again, and ask some relevant questions. So what kind of questions? So if in case you have initiated some proof of concepts, have you classified and synced up your complexity levels of the transactions or the data that will be fed to these models? So once the inquiries are being made to these models, the tasks that are being asked from these models, have you made a sync up with the level of complexity that those scenarios have? Have you considered the aspect of token utilization and token length as key factors for thinking models usage? So try to see it like this, that the token utilization and token length will have a bearing on the cost that you pay for infrastructure. If it's like running around in circles despite discovering a right answer, if the model is running around in circles despite discovering the right answer, it's one of those things, one of those friends we have who says, okay, I am doing it for learning, not doing it for solution. In the sense, I want to knock on all the wrong doors, even if I have discovered the right door, because the wrong door is giving me some sort of context and learning. It is that kind of scenario. But what if there is a cost associated with knocking onto the wrong door? Would you still do it? So optimization around tokens, optimization around length and utilization of tokens, something to look at. There is a risk of diminishing returns, as is visible from this particular case. The model might still die, but it still burns some of your resources. So as the study proves that there is a certain threshold after which it basically gives up. But what about the resources it consumes till that threshold is reached? So this is a very interesting and a useful aspect to consider. Agentic AI, one very interesting aspect. Everybody has been talking about it. I have seen some of the companies which are struggling with bare bones automation. They put big 40 font, red in color, agentic workflow onto their website. Agentic depends on reasoning models to some extent, especially when it comes to explainability associated with the decisions that the agent is taking. So have you seen any risks associated with the performance and reliability of your agentic workflows due to the thinking models? Have you explored that dimension? Because the reason I am making this short video conversation here and recording this video is not just to create an extra layer of turbulence or disruption into the thinking process. It is just to expose some dimensions which might be helpful in taking a right rational decision. Is there a scaling limitation that you can encounter? Because in this study they encountered a scaling limitation. Beyond a certain scale, it was not even possible. So let's say Tower of Hanoi. So there are pegs and you have to lay bricks onto the pegs. Once they increased the bricks to a certain number, let's say 8 or 9 or 10, the model simply refused to deliver any results. But still, reaching that stage, it will be, how would you determine which one is a high complexity, which one is a low complexity, and what is that threshold, and how that threshold is getting redefined? So this is a dimension you need to look at. As I earlier said as well, ask for explainability of outcomes rather than output accuracy. Ask it in relevance to your use cases, your tests, as to how it can And if somebody has got a great product, they will always be willing to experiment and to give it away. Another surprising aspect was, even when given explicit instructions, reasoning models did not improve performance. They failed exactly at the same point. So I would say then it diverges into an area: is AI or agentic AI or even a reasoning model as an AI lever, is it the right solution for the problem you are trying to solve? Or is it something that you can solve through a base level algorithm, like a normal coding or a base level automation? What is the cost performance profile for the model? This is another important dimension to see for the specific use case you are trying to use it for. What kind of similar data has this model demonstrated the effectiveness on? And that will determine what kind of environment this can work very well. Finally, I would say primarily there are few learnings from the study, that it's an advanced form of pattern matching. Actually, the thinking is not really thinking, it is just an illusion. Is the advanced pattern matching being sold to you in the name of a reasoning model? That's something to see, because there is a lot of AI washing. I have written about it, I have spoken about it multiple times, what kind of AI washing is happening in the market today. But I would like to leave you with the thought that AI is not a solution to all problems. AI is a best fit solution for certain problems, and those certain problems have to be very specific. If you have a legitimate problem which AI can solve, it is worth investing the effort into it after understanding everything. And I have seen this happening with a lot of fanfare and marketing. Uh, we will test more, we will do more testing, we make it better. Bigger doesn't make it better in the world of AI. And for more information, you can log on to www.yourastralmind.com. Thank you so much and have a great day.